Hello, my friend. It's so good to have you here today. Welcome back. Find a comfortable place to sit, pour yourself a warm cup of tea, and let me tell you a story. Have you ever been told your dreams were too big? That the place you were born was too broken, your family too poor, or that the world had already crowned its kings and left no room for you? Tonight, we're not going to talk about football. Tonight, we walk through the life of a boy born in the middle of war, a boy who grew up running into dark basements just to survive, and who, with nothing but an iron will, rewrote the history of a sport once reserved only for the wealthy and the elite. His family called him Noel, but the world would soon know him by another name, the Wolf in Winter. Novak Djokovic! Come with me, my friend. Let's travel back to a cold, dark night in Belgrade in the year 1999. Can you hear that sound? That was NATO bombers flying over Belgrade for 78 terrifying nights. Imagine a 12-year-old boy waking at 2 or 3 in the morning, night after night, to the sound of explosions shaking the earth. He and his family ran into the dark, cold basement of his grandfather's apartment building, packed in with neighbors, all searching for the same sliver of safety. And yet, when Novak looks back on those dark nights, he remembers them with a strange brightness. "We didn't need to go to school," he smiles, "and we played more tennis." War took away his peace, but it gave him something else. It made him tough, and it planted a deep, insatiable hunger inside him, a hunger for success. In a country crumbling under war and international embargoes, Novak trained inside a disused, empty swimming pool turned into a makeshift court. While bombs fell over his city, he stood there hitting a yellow ball against concrete walls. Novak Djokovic was born on May 22, 1987, in Belgrade, then part of Yugoslavia, now the capital of Serbia. He was the eldest of 3 brothers, born into a family with no background in tennis whatsoever. His father, Sirens, along with his uncle and aunt, were all professional skiers. Tennis was a language nobody in his bloodline had ever spoken before him. But this impossible dream didn't actually begin in the dark basements of Belgrade. It began on the snowy peaks of Mount Kopaonik, where Novak's parents, Srđan and Dijana, ran a small pizza parlor, working long hours to get by. Naturally, with skiing and football running in the family, Srđan wanted his son to follow the same path. But fate had other plans. When Novak was just 6 years old, a legendary coach named Jelena Genčić came to the mountain to run a youth camp. Every single day, a quiet boy stood by the fence, clutching it tightly, just watching the players move. Jelena noticed him. She walked over and handed him a racket. Within days, she was spellbound. She went straight to his parents and said, "Your child is a golden child. He will be the best in the world." Novak was 6.5 years old. A year later, invited onto Serbian national television, that same little boy looked directly into the camera and said, without a hint of doubt, "My goal is to become #1 in the world." Back in Belgrade, Novak would stand in front of his bedroom mirror. He built himself a trophy out of a scrap of plastic, lifted it high above his head, and practiced his victory speech in English. "Hello, my name is Novak Djokovic, and I am a Wimbledon champion." He was visualizing his destiny in the darkness of war, long before the world ever knew his name. To keep this fragile dream alive, Novak's family had to risk everything they owned. Tennis is a brutally expensive sport, and in a country crushed by war and embargoes, sponsors were nowhere to be found. So his father, Sergeant, turned to loan sharks. High-interest debt just to keep his son on a tennis court? The pressure on young Novak was suffocating. Every match wasn't just about points, it was about survival. Lose, and the family could lose everything. At 12 years old, he packed his bags and left home alone, bound for Munich to train under Nikola Pilic. For months, his coach had him serve into a brick wall, over and over, until his form was perfect. For an entire year, he trained his wrist with nothing but a rubber band. He learned to survive in silence and to speak 5 languages fluently: Serbian, English, Italian, German, French, just to feel less alone in a world that wasn't his. By 2003, Novak turned professional. But when he finally reached the top of the mountain, the throne was already taken. For most of the 2000s, tennis belonged to 2 men only: Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. The world adored them. The media worshipped them. Then a skinny, brash kid from Serbia showed up, threatening to ruin their perfect rivalry. 2008, Australian Open. 20 years old, Novak wins his first Grand Slam, breaking an 11-major stranglehold held by Federer and Nadal. But the tennis world didn't welcome him. They saw an arrogant intruder, a clown doing impressions of beloved champions in the locker room. They laughed at him. When he played Federer or Nadal, the stadiums turned hostile, chanting against him every single time. But Novak's toughest opponent wasn't the crowd, it was his own body. Again and again it betrayed him, collapsing in the heat, gasping for air, forced to retire from major matches. The public called him weak. Players said he had no heart. Even Novak started to believe them. He later admitted that facing the 2 giants, he froze. "I got afraid of winning," he said. "I had too much respect for them." He was one step from breaking completely. But a wolf does not die in winter. It adapts. Novak's transformation began in 2010 when a nutritionist named Igor Sidojevia made a startling discovery. Using applied kinesiology, he found Novak was severely intolerant to gluten. Novak made the painful choice to eliminate it completely, walking away from the warm pizzas of his parents' restaurant and eventually embracing a strict plant-based diet. What followed was one of the greatest physical rebirths in sports history. Novak became a flexible, indestructible machine. He could slide on hard courts like a gymnast, neutralizing every serve, turning defense into offense in a split second. Then came 2011, the year of pure destruction. Novak opened the season with a historic 43-match winning streak. He faced Federer and Nadal 11 times that year and beat them 10 of those times. He walked away with 3 of the 4 Grand Slams. The peak of his childhood dream arrived on the green grass of Wimbledon in July 2011. Novak defeated Nadal to win the title and for the very first time claimed the world #1 ranking. As the final ball landed out, Novak dropped to his knees on the sacred court. He reached down, plucked a few blades of grass, put them in his mouth, and began to chew. "I still think this is all a dream," Novak said, standing before his people. He carried the real golden trophy back to Belgrade to visit his childhood coach, Jelena Jenna. He placed it in her hands next to the mirrors where they'd once practiced with plastic cups and whispered, "This is the trophy of our dreams!" But the higher you climb, the colder the wind blows. My friend, have you ever had to choose between your lifelong dream and your deepest personal principles? In January 2022, Novak Djokovic arrived in Australia as the defending champion, ready to win a record-breaking 21st Grand Slam. But Novak was unvaccinated against COVID-19. He believed in the freedom to choose what goes into his own body. What followed was a global media firestorm. Novak was detained in an immigration hotel, his visa was cancelled, and he was treated like a criminal. Even after a federal court ruled in his favor, the Australian immigration minister used his personal executive power to cancel Novak's visa again, citing public health and order. Novak was deported from the country. The world media labeled him a villain, a selfish anti-vaxxer. He was banned from entering the United States, forced to skip major tournaments, and lost his world #1 ranking. A few weeks later, BBC reporter Amol Rajan sat down with Novak for an exclusive interview. He asked him one brutal, direct question. Are you prepared to forego the chance to be the greatest player that ever picked up a racket, statistically, because you feel so strongly about this vaccine? Novak didn't blink. He looked the reporter dead in the eye and said, "Yes, I do." Rajan asked, "Why?" Novak replied, "Because the principles of decision-making on my body are more important than any title or anything else." Stop for a moment and think about that, my friend. When the entire world is screaming at you to bow down, when your dream of becoming the greatest of all time is slipping away, do you have the courage to stand by your soul? Many thought his career was over, that his stubbornness had destroyed his legacy. But the wolf in winter was only waiting for the snow to melt. In 2023, Novak returned with a vengeance. He won the Australian Open. He won the French Open to claim his 23rd Grand Slam. He won the US Open to claim his 24th. After that US Open win, even his fiercest rival, Rafael Nadal, had to admit it publicly. With respect to titles, Djokovic is the best in history, and there's nothing to discuss about that. But there was still one missing piece in his soul. He had won everything tennis could offer, except for one thing, an Olympic gold medal for his beloved Serbia. In the summer of 2024, at 37 years old, Novak walked onto the clay of Paris. Just 8.5 weeks earlier, he'd undergone surgery for a torn meniscus in his right knee. Everyone told him it was impossible to compete. But Novak fought like a man possessed. He reached the final and faced Carlos Alcaraz, a young, explosive force half his age. They played an epic, brutal match, 2 tiebreaks, not a single serve broken. When Alcaraz's final forehand found the net, Novak Djokovic fell to the clay. His body shook. He didn't eat the grass this time. He looked up at the sky, crossed himself, and cried tears of absolute, unfiltered redemption. He had completed the career Golden Slam and the career Super Slam. He had given Serbia its greatest pride. Today, at 39 years old, Novak Djokovic is still running on the grass, still sliding on the hard courts. He has nothing left to prove to the world. But he keeps going, because the fire inside him simply refuses to die. As he once said, "Belief is the most common word to me, even more than hope. To achieve your dreams, you must truly believe in them." The story of Novak Djokovic isn't just a story about tennis rackets, yellow balls, or golden cups. It's a story about an unbroken spirit. It's a testament that even if you're born in the dark of war, even if the world closes every door in your face, the gift inside you, your belief, is always more powerful than the barriers they build. Thank you for walking through this long journey with me tonight, my friend. If no story touched your heart, leave a comment below. Tell me, what part of his life inspired you the most? And next time, we'll travel to a story of another kind. Goodbye, my friend, and sleep well.